Hey, DeMarco. Glad you made it. Can we?
I can't hear nobody.
Oh wow!
All right.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
right,
Okay, gotcha.
great,
Okay, good. So I was giving you all these wonderful accolades and thanking you for being here tonight. We had a little technical difficulty about the opening because I celebrated you in the opening, so I want the world to see it. Okay. So as soon as the technician gets it, just give us a signal, technician, when you get it, and we'll go play the opening for everybody. Now, we ain't gonna miss it, all right? Yeah. But that's the situation with live. Anytime you go live, things just happen like that. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
Likewise, it's good to be seen. It's good to see the both of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's been a minute, a day, a week, an hour, and a year, but that's your fault.
You know what?
My invitation somehow always gets lost in Hogwarts. I don't know where my invitation actually flies to.
Okay, so
maybe my owl may be going to Watts or Compton. It ain't coming to Sherman Oaks, so I don't know what's going on.
You know what's so funny? Sherman Oaks. Now we thought about Sherman Oaks.
We did
before we moved downtown. Now that was something before we moved to LA in its totality, but we thought about Sherman Oaks. And I like the community, but that traffic is something else. I mean,
what traffic?
So your other life job, you must stay right in the community.
Yeah, because I mean, living here in Sherman Oaks, I get to Hollywood and West Hollywood in 20 minutes.
Right. Well, that is true. That certainly is true.
And then because I'm right by the on one end, I'm by the 401 and the 101. I'm right in between Ventura and where the freeways.
Well, that sounds actually like pretty much to where we were looking at when we first were considering out there. Yeah. I don't remember the street, but we were literally maybe one street over and another street down from the apartment was, and then from the freeway. So it was like really close, Mm-hmm. But one thing I did like about Sherman Oaks, the one thing was the fact of the size of the apartments. Now, I mean, especially if you have an older apartment, the size is really, really good. Really, really good, in terms of that, And
Marie Callender's.
Marie Callender's. Yeah.
Well, see, that's exactly where I live. But they Marie Callender shut down, and now it's an emergency tech for I think older people. It's another what do you call them? Not an emergency room, but it's another one of them where you can get all night care just really fast.
Not the emergency. I know what you're talking about. Urgent care.
It's another one of those.
Okay.
And because I literally I can walk over there in like 5 minutes. But but that's why I chose this place, because when I moved to LA, I was living in Studio City for like 6 months.
Okay.
And I walked down Moore Park all the way from Moore Park in Coldwater Canyon all the way to Moore Park here in Sherman Oaks. And I went down every side street because I went to every apartment complex. I walked for 6.5 hours in the hottest day of the summer. And I found this place just because I was going to all these different places, and because you know how Black we really are. Right. I don't choose an apartment unless I see it at night, because I want to know who's hanging outside.
Oh, okay.
Because you gotta know who hangs out. You gotta know, especially in LA, you have to know it sounds really bad. You have to know you have to know your crackheads.
Yeah, well,
and you have to know your neighbors.
Truth.
Because living in New York, when you know the people who are on the street, they will actually watch your house for you as long as, you know, nobody caused no problem for them and all that stuff. And sometimes you kick them a little something, but they sweep and all that stuff for you. So I like to go to the neighborhood at night because I want to see how people really act. And moving from New York, I wanted space and peace. And this apartment that I'm in right now, it wasn't even available. I just walked past. I was like, "Oh, that looked like a nice apartment complex." Like,
Really?
"Oh, I'm really trying to be suburban." And I went to another one, and they had availability. But then I went home, and something said, "Go on Craigslist." I was like, "I ain't going on Craigslist. That's how people die." I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not trying to do a Dahmer, but but I actually went on Craigslist, and this apartment complex was on there, and it's had a vacancy, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So my best friend, who's my roommate now, he was living in New York. So I said, "Hey, I think I found this place," and then I called the woman. She answered me immediately. No one answered me immediately. Then I showed up the very next day, and she took me to some apartment in the back of the building. I was like, "This is really nice, but it's just not me." And then she said, "Well, we have one, but it's not done yet." And she said, "It's a little bit cheaper, but it's bigger."
Okay.
I said, "Well, how big?" Well, she said, "Well, we're giving it away. This is like, I've been here for 5 years." She's, you know, it was $2,400 a month for 1,400 square feet.
Okay.
And so I walked in here, and I felt a peace. And I said, "This is it."
Wow.
I said, "This is it. This is the one." And she said, "Well, you're going to have to wait till August 1st. And I was supposed to be out of my place immediately. So I went back to where I was staying with my friend, and he said, "Brother, do you think you can stay 2 more weeks? I'm not having, you know," he was having a hard time. And I was like, "You know what? You showing out right now." And so August 1st, I moved in right on that day. And, you know, when you've been through so much, everything that I went through in New York, everything that I went through with professional sports, everything I went through with school, all this other stuff, I had no furniture. I had nothing. I sat in the middle of this room with a glass of wine.
Oh, wow.
And turned the light on. I just sat in the middle of the floor, and I cried.
Wow. Well, I think I have a lot of stories about crying.
You do.
You trust me, I do. Well, believe you me. But we want to say real quick. I didn't get the proper introduction at this point. Like I said, I'm still telling the control room, y'all, to play the opening because it's really important about the show tonight. So play that dog opening. All right. But I do want to welcome my brother DeMarco tonight. Thank you for being a part of the Truth Behind the Truth. And guys, welcome to the Truth Behind the Truth tonight. Hey, did we call it?
That was a Truth Behind the Truth moment, DeMarco.
Yes, it did.
That was. Yeah.
And wow, it's so appreciated.
Yes.
So appreciated. You know.
I played you guys. Don't worry about
it.
Okay. That's technology for you. But going back to that, going back to what you were saying.
So I was saying, but welcome tonight. So tonight we're going to be emphasizing a lot of things. We'll talk about our inspired show tonight. So we're calling it All Things Oscar. If you saw the promotion, you know, we're going to talk about the Oscars coming up tomorrow night, which, you know, it's kind of really exciting. You know, I mean, once again, compared to last year, but we'll touch on last year, you know, in just a minute, you know, the incident, of course, and they're gonna, you know, elaborate about that. And then we also want to talk to you guys tonight about beginning to love yourself. Okay. Right. So we're gonna dig into that because I thought that exactly. See, and catching that, you know, because when that came to mind yesterday, and I don't want to get into much in it right now because we got a whole show to do, but I thought about you. You know, when that came to mind yesterday, because you exhibit the essence of what loving yourself is about. Not that we don't, but you do because your story is so much about how you evolved into loving yourself. You know, so
thank you.
Yeah, so and I remember all these things. I don't. So I thought about that as a part of because right now we're attempting to focus in on men's health. In other words, so we're rolling into talking about mental wellness and things of that nature right now. So we want to encourage, you know, men, typically women involved as well. Yeah. But we want to talk about that. So that'll be part of what we're going to be discussing tonight as well. And then of course the Chris Flock slap. We're gonna talk about that during the
The
Oscars.
special itself.
Yeah,
too, man.
the special itself too. And then we have we're going to celebrate a couple of because I'm saying all things Oscar. So we want to just pay a brief tribute to three of our friends that we did lose this past year. You know, in that. So I thought that since we, you know, the Oscar gives the in memorial, then we'll do that as well to celebrate these three brothers that, you know, that went on as well. Real brief in that. But anyway, so I guess we're looking good right now. We can talk chat. We're going to do a little host chat real quick, DeMarco.
All right.
And then we will go to a quick break and we'll get in a little bit more further, you know, with everything tonight. So let's kind of lead into a little bit about Oscar real quick, you know, getting the vibe where you are. So let's kind of look at the fact of who do you, in your opinion, I know who you probably would like to see, but who do you think is going to win the best actor, actress, and best supporting actor?
You know what? I really don't know. It's so up in the air. Right, it's so up in the air right now. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, like, I hate to say this, okay? Like, of course, you know, Angela Bassett is just my favorite, my all-time favorite. I want to work with her.
Exactly.
But can I also just be 100% real with you too?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I adore Michelle Yeoh. I just everything she's touched.
Right.
And what people don't get is as a method acting at her age and everything that she's done at her age. All her stunts. Remembering it's just she's phenomenal. So between her and Angela Bassett, those are my I don't know. It's tough.
Yes,
it sucks.
So
it sucks.
So give me yours, and I'll give you mine.
I'm almost with him with Angela Bassett, and I, you know what, to be honest with you, I did not, and I'm really so lost at the point of who's nominated. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, I've been watching the pump and circumstance of them getting everything together. And I work in Hollywood, so there's so much going on industry-wise around where
for real.
Work. Right. You know, I'm getting a lot of people asking for certain things and it's running out like crazy at the store that I work at. So it's just like, wow, too much is going on and we don't have stock of this because of that. But it's just, you know, but other than that, though, I'm rooting for Angela Bassett because, you know, she was nominated years ago for the Tina Turner story. What's Love Got to Do It? But there was a situation after that nomination where she lost so many jobs because there was nowhere, they did not know what to do with her, which it was the 90s. And she was having this interview with Keke Palmer about it. And I thought about it, I said, you know what? This woman has been working and working, not to discount everybody else's situations in the Hollywood, but the fact that we have seen her longevity within the Black community, within the Black culture, Black Hollywood spectrum, because that's just called spade a spade. Mainstream don't follow Black Hollywood. If they did, they would understand this Will Smith, Chris Rock situation. Just say it that way. They would understand that, but that's a different situation. But just watching her over the years from, you know, all that, I'm rooting for her to get something out of this. I think she deserves her flowers. And that's my, you know, input.
Okay, so I'm actually with both of you, you know, in that regard. I think that Angela should, you know, I honestly I don't want to get into the thing where we say they owe her.
I don't think they owe her, but I think
I think that's unfortunately, I think typically within the African American culture, because they love an actor, you know, that they think that, you know, when they watch the Oscars, that, you know, whatever that this
that's such a good point.
You know, because of the way that they look. But majority of people don't go see the films that have been nominated, you know, for that, so they don't give the other actors an opportunity to you know, see what their craft is, you know, in that, you know, in that regard. So
truth behind the truth.
Truth behind truth. Exactly.
We don't all go see the film.
And I do understand that. And I think that a lot of people feel because, you know, the industry has marginalized people of color for so long, you know, and that. So now when you get an opportunity to get your just due, people want to rally on to see you win. Got it. Perfect. Okay. So let's talk about the real part of the craft, the truth behind truth. Okay.
That's right.
So my thing is, I think I believe Angela's going to win. You know, I mean, just as a rule, whether some people will say that they are going to give it to her for grace purposes or whatever the case, I just don't think they just give it to you. I think that there's a lot of things that go in behind it. And hopefully, DeMarco, all of us, we sit on the same council at some point.
Right.
Making this decision, right?
Yeah.
But I really think that it is. I think it's just her time. I think the energy around her, and I know you understand energy very well. The energy around her is speaking that. In that. So I think that's where it's going to be pulled, for that. Hold on, we're going to go to a quick break real quick, and then we'll pick it up right here from picking our nominees. Okay, guys, we'll be right back after this break.
If you need a pickup, call Junk Stars. Yeah. If you need a dumpster or a demolition, call Junk Stars. Yeah. Call 844-55-STARZ. Junk Stars. It's Junk Stars, baby.
Hey, my name is Thurston, and here I have my CEO son, Langston. We specialize in junk removal, dumpster rental, and demolition. So if you need junk removed,
call Junk Stars.
You need dumpster rentals,
call Junk Stars.
All right, and we are back, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the Truth Behind the Truth tonight. Yes. All things Oscars. All things Oscars. I love that. Sets the tone for what the expectations will be. One of the things we'll get back into our talk. When I started out this, I don't like to use the term journey, but I'll use it for the sake of our conversation. Mm-hmm. Started out this journey. I started with a blog, which was going to be my video blog. It was called JB's Road to the Oscars. Mm-hmm. And what it was supposed to do, what I was attempting to do at that time, was to keep a video blog of every step of success, moving toward the Oscar, to the point that I get to the red carpet or whatever that I would be nominated for at that time would be, celebrate that point. I could say, hey, I made it. I stopped doing the blog some time ago, but anyway. But anyway, so back to my selections. Okay. So I think Angela Bassett, definitely. Then Michelle Yeoh for sure. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's best actor, best actress, best actress. Actress, but anyway,
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Well, they're in the same category.
No, it's supporting actress. Jamie Lee.
No, Jamie Lee Curtis. She's supporting actress with Angela Bassett.
Oh, my bad. That lets you know I haven't really paying that. Okay, gotcha.
They're the same category.
Gotcha.
So then, from the male perspective, now the guy, I can't think of his name, and I apologize, guys, those that saw the film. But the guy that plays Elvis, it's just a done. The energy's around him. Mm-hmm. They're pushing him to get the best actor. Mm-hmm. Okay. The other Asian guy, I will say that he will get best supporting actor. Okay. Mm-hmm. The one from Indiana Jones that's grown up at this point. So so those are I think my top four. In that particular category. then, as far as best film, okay, I think it's going to be Michelle Yeoh's film. I think they're just going to.
They're going to win everything.
Yeah, they are, because the industry has to kind of keep that trend of being inclusive. And I don't think if they leaned toward, now we could be wrong, but lean toward too much of a brighter side of things and not involve some level of high level of color to it, diversity, then there would be a big issue again, So I don't think that they're going to allow necessarily that to happen. Now, again, I haven't seen these other films, so but you know what I'm saying? So I think that's going to be best film,
But you do get, I mean, there, if you don't mind me, if I piggyback off of that, there is one thing, like what I see with that film is that this is really shedding light on lower budget indie films.
Wow. Okay.
That are telling real stories. But the truth, but also one of the deeper truths is this small production indie film was created by queer people.
Wow.
So now you have the queer community in the forefront because they finally paid attention to a niche market. And they didn't think that our stories were as valuable, and they didn't think that they were included in those stories. It's kind of like what I tell some of the, it's funny, sometimes what I tell some of the people in the gay community, hey, it's not that we think that you're racist. It's just that the way you see the world doesn't have us in it. But when we tell stories, the way we see the world has you in it. And this movie has all of us in it.
Wow, that is. I mean, I'm sorry, Chris.
No,
can you just repeat that again? That is a gold nugget that you have just dropped on everybody about that inclusive statement you just made, making another level of truth, the truth behind the truth. But share that again, please.
No, it's really important that we have to acknowledge right now that the biggest scope on film and entertainment never looked. They looked at queer first, and then they looked at the race in the queer films first, but they actually never looked at the story. And right now they're highlighting a story. And now all of us who are doing things are going to have light shed on us. So we're getting an opportunity right now through this one film to be seen.
That is beautiful.
All of us who are creators and content creators and filmmakers and producers, all of that stuff, we now can no longer say they don't feature us. Not true.
Wow.
The door's open.
That is true. You're absolutely right. I mean, so it does open that platform for that.
But you had mentioned that before when we would watch certain shows, TV shows, like, you had mentioned it, that why is it there's certain diversity in certain shows? We mention Friends all the time when you talk about it. And don't get me wrong, I love Will and Grace and Never Time. And then on top of that, let's go out of the prime time, with certain shows within, I remember was it Queer something?
Queer as Folk.
Queer as Folk. I did not see a lot of black folks in that show, as well as Sex and the City and all that on cable. But then, thank God there is a shift. There is a shift. That was in the past. Now that today is today. Thank God there is a shift, and people has opened their eyes to what is needed, because it's real. It's reality. We don't exist without the other. There is no all now. Some people wish there was a utopia where there is an all white and all black, but at the end of the day, that's never going to happen. So why not make movies about that?
One of the things, let me say for the audience as well, is that one of the things about the Truth Behind the Truth productions, which brings you this and all the other things that we're doing. One of the main focus is that we become a company that is completely all inclusive. So the idea for the films that we will produce and the television shows that we'll produce and the talk shows and things like that as you walk out your door every day, you walk into a world where you're going to see completely diversity. You just not, unless you just live in an all whatever community. Okay. And that's still out there. Okay. It's still out there.
Sundown cities. Stay out of those.
Right. They're still out there. But I think that even for those communities, they're realizing that they're becoming smaller and smaller.
They are.
And I always say that maybe most of us, before we see this inevitable change, we'll be on the other side looking back. Okay, but it's happening. You see what I'm saying? But it is happening, and there's this new world that is being created, or this new level of humanity that's being introduced.
Yeah.
You know, we discussed it last week on the show, calling the community a woke community. You know,
Oh God, my bad. I didn't mean to have that. I should have paused my reaction.
No, everybody around. No,
right.
no,
You know, and that alone, we talked about that last week, and I would love to hear your opinion on that. But see, even in that terminology, real quick, about it, the other party of politically persuasion has grabbed that and now is trying to use that against people, what they consider what's considered woke. I'm like, what the hell? Y'all are so busy being asleep that y'all don't know what woke means.
It's code.
You know what I mean?
It's code. It's a political code word,
right?
now.
Go ahead.
You know what? There's, we've seen this a few times in history.
Mm-hmm.
And people may not like what I'm about to say.
It's the truth behind the truth.
It's just, I mean, when we think about it. How did they change the terminology from Nigus? They changed the term. What does that mean? It means God.
Uh-huh.
So calling us the N-word, meaning you're calling us a God, but you made it seem derogatory. But then just like in Greece, in Antioch, when the disciples showed up to the people in the city, and they said, "Look at those Christians! They're trying to be like Jesus. Look at those Christians." It was a derogatory word, and then they started calling themselves Christian when you were supposed to be calling yourself disciple. So all of this terminology has always been an amplified expansion of a terminology, but they say it with a tone of a derogatory meaning, which goes great with what we're talking tonight. Because when you learn how to love yourself, you have to heal your vocabulary. And what we're seeing right now is a healing of vocabulary.
All right. Beautiful. Go ahead and elaborate. Go ahead.
But it's very true, because have you noticed over time, things that are supposed to be derogatory has lost its meaning, so they come up with something else. Like the word fag used to be, people like,
oh God, yeah.
Oh, that's a fag. Well, it wasn't derogatory when I was growing up.
Right.
But if you called me a sissy, oh, we fighting all day long. Right. But then fag became a cigarette. And then, all of these terminologies always lost their power, except for the people who believe that they're in power. They have one word to use against what they think is a minority, when we're actually the majority. You want to call me walking down the street, "Hey, you stupid nigger." You're calling me a stupid God? You don't even know what a God is.
Wow.
When black men are sitting there talking about nigga this and nigga that, you're really saying God this and God that. But one thing that we don't really look at is that when you learned that word, did you learn it in survival and trauma, or did you learn it in God-like form?
Survival and trauma. Basically, yeah.
And that's what people feel when you say the word. That's why we, as black men, started using the word God. On the East Coast, you call you God. I got you. So now that we're starting to get back to our true essence and our vocabulary, and using the words that amplify our expansion, we're starting to see that happen in Hollywood. We're starting to see that in other places, because people are like, you know what? There's not enough black people in Hollywood. You have no idea how disrespectful what you're saying is, because there are so many assistant directors, producers, writers, actors who you don't know, who are very well known in the community of Hollywood. You just don't know them because you're only looking at the 10 or 12 shows that are in #1 ratings. You're not looking at the 1,500 other shows that have us in them.
Exactly. I say that.
Go ahead.
So I say that all the time to a community of people all the time. And one thing is, being an actor, that just because you don't see somebody in your few shows that you watch does not mean that they're not working. And it does not mean that they're not producing. Very much so, and I love that point. As we were talking about that tonight. One thing in that is that I also wanted to mention that, which kind of goes alongside of that. I wanted to integrate because again, being in the Oscar moment here, about Idris Elba's statement. Which I really full support that he made on Twitter. Was last week he made about that he was tired of being associated by being called a black actor. He just said, "I'm just Aegis." And I'm just Aegis the actor. And I've been saying that narrative for so long. We're great because of the craft. Now, if we're inspired by our color, that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, but we're great because of the craft. Because you can be one color all the time and be a horrible actor. So what are you gonna say? Are you a horrible black actor? You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of horrible black singers and horrible black actors, and you know what I'm saying. So my whole thing about that.
Wow. Wow. I was just because you made me think of something. Because Will Smith has never been black until the slap. You just made me realize that
because he never premised or set the margin for himself to be that way.
Same thing with OJ. OJ wasn't black until he committed that. Allegedly he committed that crime. But I
think it's kind of a different scenario.
It is a different scenario, but that's the situation within pop
That's the terminology.
That's the terminology because
you become something different when your behavior dictates something different.
To make a long
that's such
story
a great
short,
point. That's such a great point.
But to make a long story short, Whitney Houston, which is another situation, at the time when she was up on the charts, it was like we wanted to remind her how black she was when we booed her at the Soul Train Awards in '89. So it's just the fact that and that tortured her for a long time because she did not know who she belonged to. And and God bless you, Whitney. You really set the standard for singers. I think you still considered one of the best, one of the greatest. Right. But that was a situation within all mainstream black artists. Right. Who do I belong to?
It's happening to Zendaya right now. Zendaya right now is the number one searched black person in the world right now.
Wow. Yes.
Wow.
And black people are livid.
Meghan Markle second. That's another one.
Right.
There's another one.
And you know what people are saying? They taking the one drop rule too far.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's just so. That's just so. In the
Chris Rock brought that up too in his special.
So degrading.
It is.
At the end of the day,
it is.
And then what we have on these. We got to go quick break. What we have in all these conversations, on type of conversations, we are doing more harm and a degrading purpose, of what we put out there, than rather than celebrating, getting behind. You're all things black, but you're doing all things. I don't know what color you're doing. Okay, because we're going on the list of Twitter, we're going on all these other things. Everybody got something else to say. Then rather than celebrating the craft and football form, but anyway, we're gonna pick this up. Then we're gonna slide into our next conversation because we talking about this all the time.
Let's get into it. Behind the truth. Let's get into it.
It is true. We'll be right back after this quick break, guys.
Yes.
All right, and we are back. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into The Truth Behind the Truth tonight. All things live, all things exciting, all things Oscar, all things the truth behind the truth. All right. But anyway, so what do we? I'm sorry.
Let's dive into this Chris Rock situation.
Okay, all right.
Because it does tie into everything
Right.
we're talking about,
Right.
diversity and everything.
Right.
Since we're talking about the Oscars, let's go back as far as
The
Oscar
slap.
show White before the slap.
Okay.
We were talking about diversity within the industry and how everything, in the past was all white, and there was no such thing as blacks or any type of black diversity or any type of diversity that was into the Oscar planning, Oscar voting. They didn't have a. Don't get me wrong, the Oscar voting group or their peers, they were there, but not a whole lot of them were there,
Right.
or were accepted into the voting situation, the committee. So there was a situation where Jada Pinkett inputted herself into the persuasion to make change, not only for her husband to only win the Oscar or to be included as a nominee, but she was a committee of change. And there were some people who were dead against her doing that. There were some people within the public sector who didn't think that she was only doing that for Will, but she was doing that for everybody. Then you had Chris Rock, who hosted the show that year, and he even implemented it on the stage that she told him to not host, not only to boycott, but because he was boycotting because Will didn't get nominated that year. Bypass that happened, then come the slap. There was diversity that year because let me just say this: Will Packer put on one of the greatest Oscar shows I have ever watched last year. I mean, trust. It was the best production ever. But because of this slap, that it kind of washed that all away. And it kind of, put a highlight on the situation with Chris Rock and Will Smith, which was an unfortunate situation. It was an unfortunate situation because we sat there and we watched that show from beginning to end, and we kept saying to each other that nobody's going to watch nobody's not even watching the show, but they're going to watch this slap. They're going to watch because Twitter going to put it on there. So, I felt bad for Chris. I did. But if we know of the story of Will and Jada from the 90s. It has never been the greatest relationship. They were almost on the brink of divorce in the mid-90s. But then there was a situation where Chris also wanted to date Jada too. And she dissed him. 30 years worth of friendship. Now come the slap. Now there has been some situations where he had called Jada out her name, and also some other well-known female entertainers out of their name. For example, Britney Spears. Now, there was a time when he hosted the VMAs, and Britney Spears was 18 at the time. And the joke was, which Backstreet Boys would fuck Britney Spears?
This history right here. Go ahead.
He said that at the VMAs, 1999 VMAs. Go on your YouTube and look it up. He said, now, Britney was 18 years old at the time. Why would you say that about a woman? Now, the slap, I think it was well-deserved, but at the wrong place. I think he
I'm sorry.
deserved that slap because I kept saying after the joke, yeah, we all knew Jada had alopecia. We knew it. But the fact that you said that you would have casted her for G.I. Jane, and why after the joke, you did not say, but you look beautiful, Jada. You look elegant. You look radiant tonight. Damn, I would cast you for G.I. Jane because you look sexy. Never said that. And he knew he had that. Now, Coco Brown, one of our friends from the show, allegedly said that somebody who works for Will Packer told her that he was never supposed to mention her name at the show.
Nope. Nope, not at all. And you know what? I love that you gave a great history of context because people, let me personalize this because we are on the truth behind the truth.
Yes, we are.
White people don't know the history because Chris Rock is their boy. And unfortunately, he's pandered so long that they think that it's brilliant that he could sit up there and use black vernacular with white innocence. So when he gets up there and he's telling these jokes, like Come on, man. You just said, you know why I don't fight? Because my mama told me not to fight in front of I was taught not to fight in front of white people. So your mom taught you it's okay to say nigga a million times in front of white people. Your mom is okay with you calling other black women bitches. It's okay for you to demean other black people in front of white people for laughs, but your mom didn't teach you that? I don't believe that because your brothers don't act like that.
Well, he listened to R. Kelly over Michael Jackson because who has the better music?
Oh my God! Wow, really? Okay.
He would date a woman that's below 25 because it's cheaper to keep her.
Good evening, Miss Elma.
You think about that. He said that in his special. But let me tell you something was that infuriates me a little bit. Now, black people had it in for Will Smith for a long time. Let's call it black men, black straight men. I'm talking about Hotep. I ain't talking, they had it in because of six Degree Separation. That was one of his first films that kind of catapulted him. And because he played a gay college student, he was a part of the agenda to emasculate black men. Now, going to the entanglement situation. Now, this is what really hit the fans. Like, why would you allow your wife to step out of your house and have your son's friend in your home doing your wife? People tend to forget. They always claimed they had an open relationship as far back as the 90s.
Always.
Will had lovers. Jada had lovers. But the fact that they put it out there on their platform, educating people, which I didn't think they had to educate because it wasn't none of our business. And I understand what they were doing, but it just wasn't none of our business. That gave everybody license to credence to comment and to criticize, which was going to happen because nobody in middle. Yes, they do. Let's stop lying. Stop lying. Okay. It's not a Hollywood thing. Everybody is stepping out. Now, I'm not trying to say, but let's just call a spade a spade. There are a lot of people in monogamous relationships. I don't care what platform you are, church-based, political-based, entertainer-based, or just average. Or base-based. You are kidding. There are people living double lives out here. I can look inside my family.
But you know what? All right. All right. I gotta say this. I have to say this because you know what some people's biggest issue is with Will Smith and Jada's relationship? It's just the same. There's a parallel here. It's just like when people say that being gay is an abomination. Why would you think being gay is an abomination? Because the very first thing that you think about is sex. You think about you having sex with the same sex, and that disgusts you because that's not your get down. So you think for somebody else is an abomination. So you don't know anything about that. So when you talk about Will and Jada's relationship, how are you going to sit there and say, well, Jada cheated on Will with his son's friend? No, they didn't. She performed within their commitment agreement.
Right. Okay.
And Will, who is more private, Will's more private because just like you said, most people, when they hear the word lover, they're not listening. They don't hear the whole extent of everything that becomes behind that. Most people don't even realize how much land they have when you're talking about their houses.
Oh yes, we've seen the property.
So y'all can, you can do your thing over here. I'm gonna do my thing over here. But when we come together, because sex is one thing, but your relationship is another. I am not going to, when you're dating and stuff like that, especially when you're talking about Hollywood relationships and all this other stuff, you have to understand the difference between some people are loyal, some people are faithful. It's very rare that you get both in two. If I am faithful and I date somebody who's loyal, I am asking myself to change this person because I want you to be monogamous. You're not monogamous, you're loyal. So I'm trying to make you be something for me that you can't even be for God. First of all.
Wow.
Ooh,
so if I get with you and I know that you're loyal, but you're not a faithful person. So I am not going to put you in a position to betray yourself because of what I want from you. I made a decision to be with you, so I have to accept everything that's with you and try not to get me from you. If I'm trying to get me from you, then I need to just stay single. people don't realize that Will and Jada have many years, many years of forming and creating, because a commitment is a living document. If you still have the same vocabulary in your commitment from when you got together 2 or 3 years later, guess what? You ain't gonna last.
Right. Or
And people don't get that.
The same commitment of being single and trying to integrate that into your relationship or to your situation. Yeah, it's never going to last, because you still see everything from a single perspective and not from someone from a couple or partner perspective or a married perspective. You know, so there is a very valid point of the shift and the change that is necessary to happen within you. So really, technically, people, I mean, this is kind of leading into, you know, learning how to love yourself, but we'll get there in a little bit. But it's really good. And realizing that when it comes down to relationships and things that you touch, people don't love themselves enough to bring the open part of themselves to the relationship.
And that's what happened in Chris Rock's situation with his wife, ex-wife.
But then again, you have a point with somebody that has a platform, quote unquote, to stand before anyone else and to focus their layers and expose them. But at the same time, I got a lot of shit in my back pocket that I ain't even really look. If you got them and talked about the shit that was going on between you and your wife and things that you did, people will probably say, "Well, no, I wonder why Will slapped you."
But Chris,
you could probably,
go ahead.
He probably slapped you for the sake of what you did with your wife. But anyway,
but let's talk about going. I'm so sorry, but DeMarco, I want to put this out
there. No, I'm going to go after you.
But Chris represents a demographic of Black men that don't love not only themselves but women. My thing is with Chris, and if you ever watch Everybody Hates Chris, he puts it out there on this lovely TV kiddie show, how much he was picked on in Bed-Stuy, how his family shipped him to an all-white school where his teacher mocked his blackness in front of a whole room of white kids. He lived with a mother who quit every job in the book because her husband worked 3 jobs, so she didn't care. So there was this implant of, well, you know, Black women, this type of Black woman who was just not only she's not equipped to be working within the public sector, but to support the family, but she's messy within the community. She's messy along with other Black women. So he got this from his way of seeing and his worldview, because this is what was ingrained in him those years of growing up in Bed-Stuy, New York, in Brooklyn, New York. But I just wanted to put that out because Chris don't open up those layers within his comedy. It's all he about, but he puts it on somebody else about their self, not self-hatred, but their ignorance. Right. But what about your eternal ignorance? Because you don't love yourself, bro. Right. And because you don't love yourself, you don't love people. Right.
Yes. That is such an amazing point. Can I pick it back off of you really quick?
Go ahead.
When we talk about Chris Rock, and because what we learned in the special within the first few moments, that he got divorced, he talked about Michael Jackson, he loves his opioids now, he loves coke now. We learned all of this stuff. But one thing is we don't talk about our belief systems. He didn't talk about his belief system. So, you know, it's our belief systems are about the nature of our pain. Because when you start to define the nature of your pain, it can actually change the way you respond to your suffering. You have to define the nature of your pain. He talked about his pain, so his belief system is coming from a childhood. So his conversation with himself and his nature of pain, he still has a child immaturity when he talks to himself about his pain. So when he gets up on the microphone and people's like, well, he deserves to talk about this, he deserves to do that. You know what? We all get to have the freedom of speech, but freedom of consequence ain't in the Constitution. Those are two totally different things. So you have to get back to the nature of your belief system around pain, because that's going to be your response to how you suffer. And now we're seeing his response to how he suffered. So when he suffered this whole year, like I don't like.
Wait,
He got slapped.
Marco, hold
Go
on,
for it.
hold on,
Go for
hold on to that. Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to that.
Hold on.
We'll finish it out with that, and we'll go into finish up with our.
Because his special pissed me off.
Yeah, no, I got you. So, but real quick before we go to as we go to break, we want to celebrate as we do like all things Oscar tonight. Want to celebrate a few brothers that have transitioned out over the past year that were very dear to us and to this particular show, as well as the friends of this show. Okay, so anyway, as we go to break, we want to celebrate them, and then we'll be right back after this break.
Okay.
All right, and we are thanking you for joining us tonight on the Truth Channel. For all things Oscar, all things a little bit of gossip, and not all things Chris.
Go, DeMarco. Go. We ain't got enough time. Go ahead. Go. Go.
You know, I just, I get that people are like, Chris Rock has the highest rating special only because white people wanted to see what Chris Rock and Will Smith is not right now is an extension of black violence, being violent towards each other.
Uh-huh.
People only tuned in to hear what he was going to say about Will Smith. None of his other material mattered to anybody else. But I just have a problem. With the punchline to each joke. Chris Rock, when he was bigger and blacker, there was no trauma. So his words and his punchline were actually a freedom to laugh at and poke fun at the things that you see. This time, had he told the same jokes with a healed from the trauma, it would have been even funnier. But because he's still angry or pandering, that's all I felt. It's just like, dude, like, dang, like, all you doing is trashing black people in front of white people. I ain't never seen you in no white outfit for no special that you've done.
Wow.
But now you want to show up in an angelic outfit.
Wow.
Nobody really, I mean, I'm sorry, but when you're doing theater and you're on the stage, you don't want to wear white because you stress sweat.
Uh-huh.
Why was you, there's this whole facade that people don't get, who are not in the industry, who don't realize what was being done. They were being so manipulated to put down, like people talking about, I just can't believe Will Smith. I don't like him anymore. What do you mean? You mean to tell me that Charlie Sheen can go and do drugs on TV, get chased, get pulled over by police, get put in handcuffs? He's doing drugs. He knowingly was having unprotected sex with women, and they kept, and he was knowing, and he's HIV positive, knowing that he was doing it on purpose, and then turns around and gets in between men, and he's the highest paid actor on television. But you mean to tell me Will Smith makes one mistake?
Yes.
Why is black violence? Why is black mistakes amplified to the 10th degree? But we get I can't remember his name, but Iron Man.
I was just going to say Robert Downey Jr.
destroyed his career, but you know what? They gave him a chance. Now he's one of the highest paid.
Yeah,
but we can't make mistakes.
Got an Oscar from the pianist, and you know he's been exercised from the United States for so long, but he got his Oscar for pedophilia. But you know what's so sad? Go ahead.
I would love to continue.
I
would love to continue.
I would
love to continue. You know, this might need to be to be continued.
Come on back, DeMarco. Come
on, we got to talk about. This is such a great point to really briefly from your quick point from you guys. We got like a minute, half a minute from each of you to really to talk about loving yourself.
Oh yes,
you see what I'm saying? This is a very good part about this, you know, and where all of these things that we've discussed from the Hollywood to down to this point about Chris Rock, and then him really not loving himself, you know, enough to really to offer the level of forgiveness, and rather putting other people's garbage out there and all that type of stuff. So you can take it real quick. What is your idea of loving yourself? And then Marco, you take 30 seconds, and we got to wrap it up.
Learning to love yourself, I believe it comes from knowing yourself and understanding that you stand on the shoulders of others that have come before you, and understanding of their struggle, and understanding that you have a journey that is so worth needed, that you matter. So I think that comes with learning to love yourself is knowing yourself and knowing your worth.
DeMarco.
Learning to love yourself to me means not going into the 3 Ds: destroy, demean, and dehumanize yourself mentally, and going into your inventory of resentment and seeing what's in there so that you can actually heal your vocabulary, so that you can talk to yourself in such a way that is not just uplifting, but it's freedom. So when you love yourself, you have to understand loving yourself starts with being great to the journey of greatness. And before you try to understand what you do and how you do it, you must accept that it's there. And then you'll be able to propel yourself into love, kindness, compassion with self first. And then you'll amplify that with other people who then give you the tools and processes that will help you continue to learn to love yourself more.
Man, you know, I want to piggyback on what you just said about the great, okay, you know, and the journey. I would like to integrate grateful process of that. Because when you become grateful for yourself and grateful for your creator putting you on this planet, and understand that you are an extension of the greatest entity that there is, okay, which we refer to as God, however you see yourself in that scope. When you begin to see yourself that you're the greatest part of that, then understanding that you were birthed out of love. And I'm not talking about the connection of sex. I'm talking about the birth out of love, of the agape love. So when you apply the agape love to who you are, then you understand the purposes. Now you can love yourself. You love yourself through your trauma. You know what I'm saying? You love yourself through the bad relationships or the good relationships, or however you want to look at it. You love yourself through all of those things. And you begin to understand that you as the person, you matter. Okay, and once you matter to you, it all takes care of a part of loving who you are. You know, that's the steps to get it. But number one thing is to take that opportunity of grateful. You know, once you're grateful, you're full of, okay, and you're full of love, you have the opportunity to move forward. You know, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Truth Behind the Truth tonight. Man, it was like, hey, you let us know when your schedule's available.
Come back.
We love you. We love you.
Yes,
okay.
Sherman
Oaks. You know?
I got my filming schedule.
Okay.
So I just found out that I have Saturdays free for the next month and a half.
Good. So we're gonna plug you in, but we got to go.
So plug me in.
Love you, man. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Truth Behind the Truth. We will see you back next week on what? The
Truth Behind the Truth.
Have a good night. Bye.